Today I would like to share some of the experience that we have had in the past with building a perpetual wireless sensor node, and this work was done with, in collaboration with University of Michigan and Texas Instruments. So before going into the details of why we are looking at the perpetual wireless sensor node, let me give you a brief overview of what are the applications for these wireless sensor networks. As we know, they will target industrial automation, whether it's structural health monitoring of gas pipes or oil pipes in the fields. They'll target smart cities, street light parking sensors, as you can see here in the figure over here, so that when you enter a parking garage, you know exactly as to whether there is a parking spot and where it is. They'll target smart buildings, where you do e-metering or solar panels, anything that has to do with automation of these smart buildings, and of course the smart homes, as you might have seen at that TI demo at the booth outside. So far so good. There are so many applications and so many possibilities for these wireless sensor networks. But what are the challenges over there? Well, we look at the challenges for the wireless sensor networks, and we see that reliability is one of the main challenges. Why? Because people are still not convinced to replace wires with wireless, because wireless will have interference, it will not be reliable, it won't deliver you the delay that you are requiring. At the same time, scale is a problem, and we saw that yesterday in one of the talk by University of Michigan professor she was trying to do the soil moisture monitoring on the field, and she couldn't set up a multi-hop network. She was using only a single hop network, and that's really bad if you want to build a wireless sensor network with a multi-hop and you can't achieve that. And power, of course, is one of the main challenges, because most of these nodes will be battery powered, and the lifetime of the network will be the lifetime of these nodes that are battery powered. And the more you can prolong these nodes, the larger will be, the higher will be the lifetime for the network. We were focusing on improving the efficiency, and we thought, like, okay, why don't we combine and use some energy harvesting? And one of the most common ones is ambient light. Of course, we are not going to hold the lamp at the sensor node and keep it there forever, but we would want the sensor node to basically harvest the energy from the ambient light, from a room like this, or maybe a room that is brighter or lower light intensity. Well, the problems with doing ambient energy harvesting is that the power that you are drawing from this ambient light is only in the order of microamp. And these nodes, I can guarantee you, well, at least for now, the radios will draw the current at 20 milliamp, whether it's transmit or receive. At the same time, you have these rooms today, whether they are conference rooms or offices, that they have motion detection, and after some time they'll go all dark. So what happened to the node? So these are some of the problems that needs to be taken in consideration if we want to use light as the energy harvesting source. So let me briefly go over the outline. I'll give you an outline of what is the standard networking protocol that we are using in our sensor nodes. Describe briefly the hardware platform for the sensor node, what we have to deal with selecting the solars and batteries, and what type of optimizations did we do in order to achieve or bring this perpetual node closer to reality. So I don't know if most of you are familiar, but the medium access control for that we are using is based on the IEEE 802.15.4e. E stands for enhancement, and this is the typical MAC that Zigbee is using. Well, enhanced. And enhanced, I mean, this is the enhancement. You basically, instead of using one channel, you are using 16 channels, and you hop between the channels. And also the time, your time is time slotted. of course, what that takes out is that you don't transmit just by sensing the medium not busy or idle, and you transmit as it is currently in the 802.15.4 protocols. What you do is there will be a coordinator, let's say coordinator A over here. There will be beacon channels. I mean, we are giving here as an example that the beacon channels will be here, but it can be anywhere in the slot frame. And there will be shared slots. And in this shared slot, basically anyone can transmit. You can use contention-based medium, and you can use that in order to associate between the nodes. And of course, you will have the dedicated, whether they are transmit or receive slots. And all the transmissions will happen at a particular channel at particular frequency. And the coordinator will take care of maintaining this slot frame and making sure that, let's say, G to E can use the same channel at the same slot, and at the same time, B to A can use the same channel at the same slot. So in this case, you increase the capacity because you are using the same channel at the same slot, so you are having some spatial improvement doing that. This is the standard the standard medium access protocol that we are using, but in order to see and investigate, okay, what are the problems with building a perpetual sensor node, we need to know how this protocol is operating. And the reason I'm saying that is because when the enhancement to 15.4 were designed, they were targeted towards low power wireless sensor node. And in order to see how low power it is, we need to understand its operation. And the way that it operates is basically your PAN coordinator will transmit beacons at different channels. Of course, the time is not drawing to scale over here. And remember, you have 16 channels. Any of those channels can be chosen randomly. It depends on what your PAN coordinator will do. And what the joining node will do is that it will basically scan these channels. It will scan the channels randomly. It doesn't know what is the order, and it doesn't know because the PAN coordinator could have started this network long time ago, and everything is random. So it doesn't know exactly as to where these beacons are being transmitted. So it will continue to sense the channel, and then at one point, it will match the beacon channel with the channel that this node is listening. It will learn about what the channels look like, what the shared slots are, where the beacon slots are, and based on that, what it can do is this pink lines over here will indicate the shared slot, and then at those shared slots, it basically sent an association request to the coordinator. It will get an association response back, and then it will know in this association response that there will be channel X, channel Y at this particular time slot that, okay, now we can communicate between PAN coordinator and this joining node. And so every node does that. And this is more or less the principle for the time-slotted channel hopping protocol that is in 802.15.4e. Okay, so as far as the node is concerned, what we used is, of course, I'm from Texas Instruments. We use one of the experimental boards that contain an MCU MSP430 5438 based on flash. It uses CC2420 radio, and this one will be using the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth. You have 16 channels over there. This is previously Chipcon, now Texas Instruments radio. The energy harvesting module is also Texas Instruments module. It's a BQ25504. And what it does is it will harvest the energy, and it will indicate to the main board as to whether the voltage level that is accumulated is good enough for the node to transmit or receive or do any operation for that matter. And if the voltage will fall below a threshold level, then it will disconnect. So basically the node will have no energy, no power to transmit and connect. Okay. So initially we did the blue wiring, and then we got better at it. and this is the node that we put in together. Now, this might look a little bit big as a node, but we are doing this for development and investigation. So I'm sure that when we build a ultimate node, it won't look, and it won't be as big as this one. Now, going back to the energy harvesting module, now we need to choose what kind of solar panels it's going to use, what kind of batteries. Are we going to use a capacitor for storing the energy and then passing it to the board, or are we going to use some rechargeable batteries? Based on some estimation that we had, these are basically the actual solar panel area that we came up with as to what is needed based on this operation. Well, it looks that what we did, what we estimated, or what we thought would be the case as far as the area or the battery is concerned, is not sufficient. Okay, now that we thought that experimentally we have this 34 milliamp hour Panasonic lithium-ion rechargeable batteries, and we have these monocrystalline silicon solar panels, maybe we are doing good. Well, we are not there yet. And the reason is that, well, let's look at what we have for the power of the node, okay? Looks at the node on average will have like 400 microwatt power, okay? And the energy harvesting, or how much we can harvest from a typical room, whether it's with low lights or high light, it varies, but it's a factor of 4 to 10x lower than what the node needs. Okay, so then there are two approaches for this. One, you can go to the hardware and you can try to optimize the hardware, and the second one is you can go to the networking part of it and then see, okay, what more can we do? Can we do anything on the networking side of it? And we choose the networking side of it because, well, I'm more of a networking guy, although we are looking at currently at the hardware part of it as well. So what we did is, if you remember the operation for the time-slotted channel hopping, I mentioned to you that it hops over 16 channels, and it's hard to basically connect the node to the PAN coordinator. And if you remember, the classical Bluetooth also had the same problem. It had 79 channels, and the initial setup would take seconds or minutes for that matter. But you have to remember that now you have your radio operating at 20 milliamp staying on for these many minutes. So that's a lot of wasted energy. So what we want to do is you want to limit the number of channels that you can transmit the beacon, and this is one of the ways to basically avoid that problem. And the reason why we choose 3 channels is that, well, if it's operating in 2.4 gigahertz band, then you'd want to use 3 channels, one at the beginning of the 2.4, one in the middle, and one at the end. So even if you have a wireless LAN channel that is nearby, you are not interfered all the time. Okay. So what we did is the initial beacon setup or connection setup would take like minutes, even for a Zigbee node that is using 15.4e. But restricting the number of beacon channels, you can see that you can bring it basically under 5 seconds in terms of the connection setup. Of course, you can still do more optimization in terms of, okay, you can increase the number of beacon channels at the PAN coordinator, the frequency of them, how often you are sending. If you are putting only one beacon channel in one slot frame, then you can put more than one beacon channel. You can put 2 or 3. You can transmit 3 beacons in the same slot frame, and you can increase that frequency, and at the same time you decrease the chances that the node will find these beacon channels. The other thing that we thought is like, well, in the 15.4e, the time-slotted channel hopping, there is nothing being said about this shared slot. And remember, the shared slot are the slots that any node in the network can use, and it can use for association. Those are mostly broadcast channel, but you are not going to receive all the time broadcast packets in those channels. So why not be smarter about it? Instead of using all of them, maybe if I have in 4 slots, I use only one of them. Maybe that will be sufficient. Of course, I'm increasing the delay as far as the node association. One of the, yes, 1 minute, wow. Okay. So the suppressed shared slot gave us some improvement. The other thing that we thought is that in addition to the suppressed shared slot, well, why not skip even the slot frames and just wake up whenever you have data to transmit? I'm going fast a little bit over here because I'm running out of time, but all these optimizations that we had, we put it in one single graph, and you can see the duty cycle for the microcontroller and the duty cycle for the radio over here. And we brought the duty cycle for the microcontroller from 3% to under 0.5%, and for the radio from 0.6% to under 0.1%. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know yet till I see what my power levels are now. And for the steady state, remember even for the steady state when we were doing the scanning and all that, the power can shoot up high because if you are scanning for minutes, it's a lot of time. Now, for the node starting is still high. For the harvesting energy, you can see that these are very comparable power levels. Of course, we are still having a gap between the low and the high, and we are trying to bridge that gap. But maybe the hardware can help us now. And what we are looking next is we want to bring on board some of the devices that we have with FRAM technology, like the Wolverine devices that will have a much lower sleep current. And hopefully we can bridge the gap between these power levels for what is harvested and what the node requires. Thank you.